Hi there everybody, and welcome to another video. In today's video I have this Mini Cooper S 2013 of the R56 era, and I'm gonna be changing the oil and the oil filter. So I have my oil filter right here, the man filter there, HU711, and I'm gonna be using some Castrol Edge oil 5W30. This car takes 4.2 liters of oil, and that's pretty much what I have for the quantities that I have. So we're gonna have a quick look at the coolant level as well, and topping up some screen wash fluid. And I'm gonna start by actually topping up some screen wash fluid, because that's probably the easiest one to do. And the screen wash fluid is, once you open your bonnet, is sitting, it goes in here basically. And as always, I recommend using the proper stuff. Just buy some proper screen wash fluid from any garage or petrol station, and you can buy it ready mixed and pour it in there, or you can buy it concentrated and mix it yourself. But don't go and put just water there mixed with some kind of washing up liquid, because it becomes either very foamy or it also sort of forms a bit like jelly in the tank. But the other issue is as well that although it becomes foamy there, when it comes out the jets, it makes a right foamy mess on your windscreen. And it doesn't, when it freezes, whereas this stuff is not going to freeze when it's -5 or -10 degrees, and it's going to still be working. Right, I'm just gonna get a little bit more of that and fill that up. Right, once you fill it up, just close the cap and you're done. And we can move on to the coolant. So the coolant will be here, and somewhere on the side you have a minimum and a maximum for coolant level. If I can find it somewhere, usually there is. It's just hiding behind that hose there. Maybe we can see it without the light, or maybe we need the light, I don't know. But can you see, you can see that arrow, the little arrow pointing to that line, and that's more or less, I think that is the minimum. And the maximum will be, there's another little arrow just sitting above that arrow, which is hard to see here, but it is there. And that is indicating the max, and the max is normally, so where the arrow is pointing at is this line here. Now I can see that my coolant, you can see that greenish bluish liquid, it's a little bit, it's lower than, it's actually lower than the minimum. So I'm going to open that. God, shouldn't be that tight. I may need my two hands here, or sometimes you need the help of a tool like this. Right, if the car's been running, be very careful from opening this, because you can get burnt. So my car has been running because I was getting it warm for the oil, to change the oil, but I did leave it running for a little bit longer than I wanted to. So we'll be careful with this, because we don't want any burns. Not sure you saw that or heard that, but the pressure made the coolant jump. So this is why we ought to be careful. If this fails, then you could get burned. So you don't need to get the car that hot for servicing, just a little bit warm in order to get the oil running, flowing a little bit easier. Now, once I open that, my coolant may have gone up a little bit, but that's where it is. So it's not completely gone, so I'm not too worried about that. What I've noticed is that in every single Mini I work, after a year of when it comes back for service, the coolant is always a little bit lower. So I'm not entirely sure where it's going, but I never find any leaks. And if I do find a leak, it's pretty obvious. Now I'm using this little gadget here to measure the percentage of antifreeze that it's in this coolant. And you can see there it says about -15. Sometimes my tool is a little bit old now, and it doesn't work very well. Okay. All right, it's settling at -15. And that's about right, but normally in most cars, or normally I have it around -25. So it is possible that somebody changed the coolant in this car previous to me getting it, because I haven't really checked it for that long. Saying that I haven't really had it that long, but when I bought it, I didn't really check it. So it is possible that the coolant was replaced, and that's why it could be a little bit lower as well. And it's at -15, because normally the manufacturers has it as -25, -30. So what that means, it means basically the temperature outside would have to be -15 for this liquid to freeze. So in England, I think we're borderline. I think we had maximum of -10, maybe -15 in once in 100 years. Well, I don't know, once in 20 years. Not sure, but obviously you do want to have some antifreeze in there, because if you have only water, that it only has to be -5 or so, it can freeze. And if it freezes all within the engine, and that can cause engine damage. So be sure to have antifreeze in there. Now I'm going to, with that little tool there, you can also see, not sure if you noticed, but you can see the color of the coolant, and also you can see if it's clean. So I didn't really show you that, but you can see it's nice and clear. It's actually a little bit green. That coolant is kind of green in color. It's not really, it kind of looks blue, but it is actually green. So I do have some green coolant, and I'm gonna top it up in a minute. I'm gonna top it up to that line. Okay, I've topped that up. Now you can see it's on the line that we want it to be. So if there was no coolant there at all, maybe I would be a little bit concerned, and then start sort of monitoring for any coolant leaks. So you would go ahead and top this up, and then you'll be aware that you might be losing coolant. So you want to keep an eye on, when you park your car, maybe on your driveway, if there's any water that could reassemble coolant, because the AC also sort of drops water, but it's a little bit more on that area. And also it's just clear water, so this would be sort of greenish, bluish. It depends what coolant is in there. So anyway, moving on from that, I'm not concerned about that. I've seen it on so many Minis. I think it's normal. They also consume oil. I wouldn't be surprised if the oil on my car is at a min, but they do consume oil. So now we can move on to the oil and the oil filter. For that, I'm going to pull the dipstick, and I'm going to open this oil filler cap here. Just leave it there, just allowing some air while we drain the oil. And also the oil filter is sitting sort of in between here, so it's a little bit hard to get your hands through there. So either we have to move this a little bit or take this plastic. I can see that clamp is loose as well, so that should go there. So this definitely, somebody has definitely done some work on this car, but I don't know what they've done. That's like a breather hose there. Anyway, we can remove this hose. Just undo the undo those Jubilee clips. So we got one here. If I can just have a normal flathead screwdriver, we can undo that Jubilee clip and this one here. Or usually these clips have a little head of a 7mm, so you can use a 7mm as well to release those. Now we can try to pull this hose out here. And yes, you want to pull this hose out as well, so you would have to remove this clamp. Just press it with a pair of pliers. You can use something like these pliers. So all you would have to do is grab it there, press that. These are quite hard, by the way, to press, so press them in and pull it out. And then this particular one, this you need to press the little plastic here, or you could potentially open. There is a clip here and there is another one underneath, so it can be a little bit difficult to press that clamp. Technically you have to press it from here and from this side and pull these holes out, but that sometimes is not, it doesn't really work that way. So I often, let's give it a go with these pliers. That almost worked. I think I may need my 2 hands here. Yeah, let's get my... Right, let's give this another go. Press those 2 sides there. And pull that hose out. So, okay, so that's how that comes out. And then we can just get this out. And I'm not sure you noticed, but there was nope, there's nothing else connected here. It's just that little thing there is clipped on the side here. Now that kind of gives us a little bit more access to the filter, which is sitting, you can just see the head of the filter housing there. So the normal Mini, I mean the non-Cooper S, the non-S version, the filter is a little bit more exposed, a little bit easier to remove. Although I have a better view and access by removing that intake hose there, I think I'm also going to just remove this, or try to move it out a little bit, because I can just see that when taking that filter out, it might be a little bit awkward getting it out through here. So 10mm, and this here maybe just pops out. So this looks like it's just clipped on here. Right. Now we can sort of get this out of the way a little bit, and yeah, that will sort of give us better access. We can get our hand down here and get the filter out that way. So now we're going to need, for getting that filter out, we're going to need a 27mm socket. So that there is a 27mm socket, and I have a wrench here which has an extension, and that is what we're going to be using. Right, let's give this a go. So the filter is just sitting down there. I'm gonna get my wrench with extension on the head of that. And we can just undo that. It shouldn't be too tight. And there's gonna be some oil in that housing, so normally when you take it out, some oil could leak down there. I think my extension might be a little bit too long, but so if we undo it slowly, we are allowing it allowing a little bit of air into the housing area, and hopefully that oil will drain without leaking too much and making a mess. Okay, so I think a couple of drops may have gone down, but there's our little filter with its housing, and this filter, all we have to do is pull it out. And that is out. And we can also remove the O-ring, which we're going to dispose of as well. And I'm just going to let this, there's a little bit of oil in there, so I'm just going to put it in and drain it. So while we drain the oil from underneath, I'm going to let that little housing drain off completely, and your new filter should come with a new O-ring anyway. So now we are ready to get the car up and drain the oil from underneath. If you don't remove the filter first, some of the oil usually remains in the housing, and that's usually about half a liter. So it depends on the car. Some could be between 200, 300 ml to half a liter. So that's why it's important to remove that filter before. Right, I'm gonna get the car up. So looking at the car from underneath, we have our sump here, and this is our sump plug bolt that we want to open, and I'm using an 8mm Allen key basically. Now as soon as I crack that open, the oil is going to start dripping around here and make a mess of everything. I mean, as in my wrench, because that's how they designed it. Right, so just trying to save my wrench there, but we can use the rest of the these to get this open. And what I was gonna say is also, if the engine's been running a lot, that oil can be very hot, so just be aware of that and don't get burned. So this is the only way of doing this. A terrible mess. I suppose you could just hold the... Okay, there you go. Had a shower of oil. But now we're gonna let it drain while I clean this, and then we can refit this sun plug bolt. So while the oil is draining, you can prepare your oil filter. So I went ahead and put the O-ring there. So it's got a new O-ring, and you can push your new filter in there. Now I've cleaned this. It's nice and clean inside as well. So let me just show you. So I cleaned it in there. I used some brake cleaning fluid, which I have in here, but that's what I normally use for cleaning. It's something like this, and that cleans, usually rinses the oil very nicely. So if you notice, if you check here, you may see some oil there. That oil is the bit of oil that came out when taking out the filter. So that often happens. So you can use the cleaning fluid here to rinse the area, and that usually rinses the area quite nicely. And we're also obviously gonna rinse here once we put our new sun plug bolt, and you want to put a new copper washer. This one has seen better days. I haven't seen them as bad as this. This may have been reused a few times. So if you haven't got a copper washer and you check your old one, if it's not too bad, you can reuse it. I have done so in the past and I never had a leak. But just looking at this one, it's looking a little bit flat and a little bit grooved already, so I'll put a new one. So that is ready. This is ready. The only thing left I would do here is I got a little bit of multi-purpose grease, and I would put that multi-purpose grease all around the new O-ring, and this just ensures that when you refit this back into the housing of the filter, this O-ring will slide nicely around it, and it will not get caught and it will not get damaged. And I know that many people have never done this for 20 or 50 years, as some people have left me comments on previous videos, and they never had any issues. However, that's the way I do it, so it's up to you how you do it. So all that is ready. That has been draining for a little while now, so we can go ahead and perhaps refit our sun plug bolt here. Gonna get a little bit messy again, but what can we do? Right, there we are. Now I'm going to clean this. Okay, now we can tighten these, and this would, I don't think it says anywhere, but normally I would tighten these to something like 30 Newton meters or 35 Newton meters. Just the main thing is not to damage your sump or the plug here. So just be careful with that. If you have a torque wrench, then go ahead and use it. Now we can rinse this area make sure we leave it nice and clean as it was when we first started. And that is because next year when you come to do your service, or in a couple of years whenever your car asks you to service it, if there's any oil here, then you know it could be a faulty washer, or you didn't tighten that properly, or it's leaking from somewhere. But if you leave it dirty, then you won't know what is happened. And also this area here, make sure you leave it nice and clean as it was. Again, for the same purpose. If you do develop any oil leaks, then it's not going to be confusing that it was just the oil from the filter. So with that done, I'm going to lower the car and we can top up some oil and refit our filter. So we're ready to fit our filter. And by the way, I always screw this a little bit in by hand, or basically as much as I can until it reaches the O-ring, where then it gets a bit hard to do it by hand. But at least that way you know it's actually going in the correct way. And it can be a little bit tricky there because there is the hoses from the coolant here are interfering a little bit when you're trying to fit the filter on. So you have to sort of play around a little bit and pull the hoses up a bit, and then the filter will go into its slot, and then you can screw it and then use your tool. And it's usually about 25 Newton meters that gets tightened to. I forgot to show you the casing, but it's usually written in there how many Newton meters you need to tighten that. If you're used to doing changes all the time, then you more or less know. If you're not, then you should use a torque wrench. With that done, we can go ahead and refit. You may notice that this bit here goes into a rubber grommet that is just in there. So that is in place. Now we can fit the rest. I mean, perhaps you don't really need to remove these, but it could allow you some extra viewing area, but it really depends. It's up to you. And don't forget your little 10 mil that secures that in place. And don't over tighten that little 10 mil. It's just, if you do, it's just going to break or snap or damage it's just going into plastic, I think, there, so just be careful with that. Okay, that is done. So next we just need to put some oil, and we're pretty much done with that. So I got 4.2. Now we can have a look at the dipstick here. And usually there is 2 dots or not. But ideally we want to be somewhere up here, somewhere at the top here. So this will be the max area and this will be the minimum area. So we've just done the service. We're probably gonna be somewhere up here, maybe a little bit higher, because after you run the car, some of the oil is going to go into the oil filter housing. And that's where it stays. So just as I was expecting, this oil, it's up here. You can just see my finger, which is normal. So if I run the car now for a few seconds, then we'll check this again and it should drop to somewhere around there. So engine's running fine. There isn't any warning lamps coming on inside of the car, so happy days. I've run it for a few seconds. It only takes seconds for the oil to circulate through the new filter. So now I'm going to check the dipstick. So obviously we take it out and just wipe it. Ideally you want to wait a little bit longer, obviously, for all the oil to settle. But we're just having a quick look here. It's not going to be that off. Right. Okay, so my oil is now, if I can just about, my oil is just about in this section here now. You can just see it there. So although before it was there, it was around here, it was all the way up to here. So that's pretty much it, really. With that, we have pretty much finished doing the oil change in this car. The next thing, the last thing you would have to do is reset your computer, which you would need an OBD computer to do that. Or I think you can do it via the instrument cluster, but that's that will be another video if I do that. For this particular one, it's all done now. So I hope the video helped. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next video, which might be on this car. I'm going to change the front wiper blades and the rear one. So stick around, and we'll see you on the next video. Thank you for watching.